If we did a video on every episode of black on white mob violence in this country, well, we'd be doing 1,000 videos a day on 1,000 different channels 24/7. But every once in a while, we see a video with kind of a perfect storm of denial, deceit, delusion. You get the clueless reporter, you get a willing victim, and plus you get a good description of the cackling, the shrieking, the ecstasy that accompanies this hyperviolence. That's what we found here in Society Hill in Philadelphia. So here's what Society Hill is. It is kind of what it sounds like. You know, Philadelphia is a very, very old town. And there's a lot of old money there. And the old money, they live in Society Hill under the illusion, delusion, whatever you want to call it, that they live in this little bubble and nobody ever comes into their bubble. And they can just walk on their cobblestone streets, go to their old coffee shops, and agree to meet each other at the next society function. Every once in a while, somebody comes in and bursts that bubble. And when it does, chaos ensues.
Vicious attack in the middle of the afternoon hit so hard she fell to the ground. The woman's attackers, according to police, a group of kids, and all she was doing was walking down a Philadelphia street. Fox 29's Kelly Rule is live in Philadelphia, Society Hill. Kelly.
Lucy, the one question so many people have tonight, what were these kids thinking? This area is busy. Even at 10 at night, there are people walking around. That's why the woman tells me she couldn't believe this happened. She never saw it coming, especially from kids. And she says that's what upset her the most. She's sporting a big smile and what appears to be a school uniform, but this isn't school picture day. Philly police say she's a part of a group accused of brazenly attacking a 24-year-old in broad daylight. Even though they are kids, police want you to see their faces. So does their victim.
I look up and it was her and her friend, who was a male, and they were just like laughing hysterically, clearly like thought it was the funniest thing.
She says she was walking to the gym last week right near 2nd and Pine Streets in Philadelphia's busy Head House Square in the middle of the day. She said she heard a group of loud kids, but never expected what happened next.
All of a sudden, this girl like whacked me across the back of my head and like my ear, and I fell to the ground because I wasn't expecting it. After they left, I mean, I was like bawling, crying, not even so much because of the pain, but because of I couldn't believe that it had happened and that, you know, there's kids that would do that.
Police say the group snatched her headphones and keys before running off in what they also describe as a random, unprovoked attack.
It's broad daylight. It's, I guess it would have been right at or before school dismissal, so we got to actually ask ourselves why these young folks were even out.
They say they are looking at schools in the area and their school uniforms. The woman attacked now has a warning of her own.
And if you do see like a group of kids that are, making a lot of noise, I mean, don't just assume that they're kids. Like, they could be the next person that, is hurting you. So I think just be aware.
And in the middle of planning for a wedding and saving up for a house, the victim tells me paying $500 to replace her keys was less than ideal. Now, police say they do believe not all of the kids caught on video were involved in this attack and could have just been bystanders. If that is the case, Lucy, they say it would be in their best interest to come forward.
Sure would. All right, Kelly.
So I got a kick out of that reporter at the very end saying, well, some of the kids are like, when you look at the picture, there's like 7 or 8 fellas and lovely ladies involved in that attack. But somehow the reporter has figured out that maybe, just maybe, not all of them were involved in the violence and in the robbery. And so, okay, that's one scenario. Maybe they weren't. I have some other equally likely scenarios. Maybe the victim is totally lying. Maybe she's not the victim. Maybe she's a white supremacist, a white nationalist that is just part of the billions of people roaming the planet looking for black people to attack and accuse of a crime for no reason whatsoever. That's equally likely to your scenario. Ask a cop, ask an attorney, ask a prosecutor. If you flee the scene of a crime, that they call that consciousness of guilt. You can use that in a court of law to point the finger at the guy. Says, well, if you didn't do anything, why did you run? Why didn't you turn them in right away? Yeah, 7 fellas and lovely ladies surround a woman, and you're going to tell me that not all 7 are involved. Good Lord. Okay, let's go up to Brooklyn for the same kind of story, almost the same kind of place. Nice place, in a little bubble. Everybody has convinced themselves nothing can ever happen in this part of Brooklyn, Colin, except for the 5 fellas and lovely ladies shrieking, laughing as they rob and beat people in the park.
Police released a picture of just one of the 5 teens who they say is involved in a robbery spree, attacking and robbing other teenagers in and around Prospect Park. The 3 reported robberies took place, police say, April 25th and April 27th, and just this past Thursday, May 2nd, between 3:30 and 6:30 p.m.
It's surprising because the area is usually, there's a lot of police presence and there's usually a lot of people around, so it is really surprising to hear that happening, especially around that time when the park is typically really busy.
In the first of 2 incidents here at West Drive and West Lake Drive inside Prospect Park, the group stole $8 from a 16-year-old boy and the victim was unharmed. Then just 2 days later, police say the same group of 5 approached a 13-year-old boy, stole his iPhone 7 and punched him in the face.
Kids stealing from other kids? Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. This is the first I've heard of it. And around 3 to 5 p.m., that's kind of surprising because, that's a pretty tame time around here.
And in the most recent attack last Thursday on Prospect Park West and 9th Street, the group of 5 approached a 17-year-old boy, punched him in the face, and pushed him to the ground while grabbing his iPhone 8 and dark green High Sierra backpack, which included an Apple MacBook Pro valued at $4,000 and a speaker valued at $100.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should be careful. I am careful when I come. I don't bring money, and not that, whatever, but I'm careful when I'm in the park. And I feel safe. There's usually, if you are here a little late, there are police here.
Okay, in the scope of things, maybe these 2 cases we just saw weren't the worst examples of crime, violence, criminality, and black-on-white violence and hostility we've ever recorded on these pages. Or maybe we're just reflecting back what the message we get from the district attorney and the people who run these big cities now is that, so what, some of the fellas are out doing some crazy things. We've got bigger fish to fry, worried about than a purse snatcher or a computer or a backpack snatcher in the park. But let's look at how they treat the big criminals, the killers, the drug dealers, the people carrying guns, committing violent crimes. Let's take a look at 2 recent examples of how they treat them. And then we'll see what hope we have, you and I might have, if you and I ever experience some of the stuff we just saw here. Why don't we go down to Atlanta? Check out my boy here, 17 years old. He and 2 of his pals killed somebody. The only thing the Atlanta Journal-Constitution described it, they describe it as a brutal murder. So it took them a month to catch him, and when they caught the 3 guys, it put him in the slammer. Next thing you know, they're out on bail. This guy gets out on $90,000 bail, which I think means he's out on $9,000 bail. He's out walking around on the street after killing somebody. So was one of his other. So the other 2 guys, they're out as well. This guy we're looking at now, while he's out on bail, he sticks a gun in somebody's face and says, "Give me your money or I'll kill your girlfriend right now." So he's out holding people up with a gun while he's out on bail for murder. The other guy that was in there, he was caught in like a 120-mile-an-hour car chase after fleeing from the scene of a violent crime. And when it came time for a trial, this dude, he didn't show up to try. He didn't show up to his murder trial. He didn't show up for his murder trial. Welcome to criminal justice reform. But why didn't he do it? Well, the reporter explains to us that, here's what an actual reporter in an actual newspaper said to us to explain why you let a killer out of jail and why the killer might not want to go back to jail and why he's going to hold people up while he's out. Quote, "It's impossible for a judge to know what each suspect might do while out on bond, and it is generally outside of the norm for a suspect to disappear and commit a violent crime while awaiting trial for another one, experts say." Oh, yeah. Oh, please show me these experts. No, your experts don't exist. We could go on that. We could go on that for a long time, but I think you guys all figure it out how ridiculous that is. It's not just Atlanta where they're letting them out. They let people out. They do the same thing in Philadelphia too. I mean, they let a guy in Philadelphia just a month or so ago. We've talked about this before, but a real estate developer was out on the streets at midnight, gets out of his limo to look at the traffic, to try to clear up a traffic jam. Apparently, he exchanges words with a fella on a bicycle delivering a sandwich. The white real estate guy is walking back to his car. He gets stabbed in the back and killed. Within 3 or 4 days after the parents and the church members of the fella start protesting in public, the district attorney decides this young man was overcharged. They reduced the charges and let him out of jail. He's still awaiting trial. Oh yeah, the white guy he killed is still dead. Why don't we go to the Seattle area, to the Great Northwest? Headline, these are all recent. Headline, police accuse King County prosecutors of declining cases and not charging felons. The first sentence kind of captures it. Repeat criminals let out of jail only to terrorize new victims with the same crimes. They say it's a growing problem up there, but it's not a problem. No, that's not the problem. That is the solution. Letting black people out of prison, out of jail, is the solution to the fact that we arrest too many of them in the first place. Don't you get that? Then they go back. Then they go through and tell you a couple stories. Here's a carjacking. In a place called Auburn, there's a carjacking in a parking lot. They finally arrested the carjacker. Court documents show the prosecutors did not file on several charges, including assault of a law enforcement officer. A few weeks later, the guy who did the carjacking with a gun was out of jail. Quote, "This has happened many times. We've gotten into a pursuit. We arrest them, put them in jail, and they're out. And they're out soon. They're soon back on the streets in another pursuit in another stolen car." This is exactly what that guy did. When he was in the pursuit, he fired a gun at the cops. They shot back and killed him. Here's a story involving a gentleman up in that area that the cops are unhappy about. Up in Black Diamond, they arrested a gentleman in a stolen car with a stolen gun, $2,000 in counterfeit cash, digital scales, and a notebook listing apparent narcotic sales. Police found more than 10 pounds of meth and 6 grams of heroin.
Please, sir, I want some more. What? Please, sir, I want some more.
My big concern was this is a drug dealer, clearly a drug dealer, said the cop. I wanted the gun charge because that's the person who will kill a cop. That's the person who will kill a citizen. They'll do whatever they have to do to protect themselves. I could not get them for the life of me to file that charge. Out of 5 recommended charges, the King County Prosecutor's Office filed against this guy with just one: possession of a stolen vehicle. I was furious, said the cop. I've never seen anything like this. 30 years I've been a cop. I've never seen anything like this trying to get cases filed. And it goes on and on and on, one case after another. They're just not filing charges against the criminals. It's just really, really hard to go to jail. It's hard to stay in jail. It's hard to get convicted. It's hard to go to prison. All because of this new criminal justice reform that everybody's down with, because everybody knows too many black people doing in prison for no damn reason whatsoever. So we got to get them out, or else that'll make a lot of black kids angry.